Hey, this is the beginning of our 2023 crop season. So everything you see from here on out will be what it takes to produce and harvest our crops. Some of it is not too exciting, but everything we do, we do for a reason. Here at the beginning, it's a lot of prep work, so you don't really get to see a whole lot of planting and all and watching the crops grow just yet. It takes a lot to get ready and that kind of stuff. So anyway, hope you enjoy it. Here we go. All right, good morning. Hey, it's the 24th of February and it's time to start planting in the greenhouse. We plant all of our transplant crops in here that we transplant out into the field. So that would include tomatoes, watermelons, cantaloupes, peppers, eggplant, squash, cucumbers, and okra. So all of that is started by seed here in the greenhouse, and we'll get them up 3 to 4 to 5 weeks old and then transplant them out in the field. It kind of gives us a head start. So it works pretty good. We've got one commercial size greenhouse, 30 by 96. So it stays full a lot of times. Right now it doesn't have anything in it because we're just getting started, but we don't plant all of our crops at one time, so we're constantly planting, and we'll take them out to the field and then replant in the greenhouse. And so we're constantly bringing stuff in and out. So we can get by with one standard size greenhouse. If we had to plant them all at one time, we'd have to have several. So it works pretty good. The whole process of planting in the greenhouse is pretty simple. So I'll show you, and we'll go from there. All right, this is what a standard tray looks like. We plant all of our crops in these 72 count flats. So you'll see there's 6 holes that way and 12 holes that way. So 72 count. We do different size holes for different crops. The smaller seeded stuff has a shallower hole, and the bigger seeded stuff like the watermelon, squash, cantaloupes, that type of stuff is a little deeper. And I've already punched these holes, but we'll show you that later when we get ready to make up some more trays. This is the seed. We get the tomato seed pelleted just to make it a little easier to handle. So it's small. In fact, I just dropped one. There it is right there if you can see it. So it's got a coating on it just to make it a little easier to handle. And I'm gonna put some in the trays here, and I'll show you when I get through what it looks like. All right, this is kind of what our greenhouse looks like. Of course, it's empty now. I mentioned that we haven't put anything out yet. That is our thermostat that hangs kind of in the middle of the greenhouse, and it's on an automatic thermostat. Our heater is back this way, hanging on the wall there, and we keep it 60 degrees or above. I mean, right now we're having extremely warm temperatures here in February, so it won't kick on probably even this week. But we've also got a automatic deal that lowers our sides up and down, and that's what cools the greenhouse right now at 68 degrees. And these sides will lower when it gets to a certain temperature, and then it will raise up at night, and that's what kind of regulates the temperature as far as keeping it cool. We've got a big fan hanging from the ceiling, and so the automatic side going up and down makes a huge difference. Back years ago when I first started, you had to manually do it, and so that was a big pain. But now it's automatic, so I don't have to worry about it. This little fan right over here runs all the time. You can see that it blows air between the 2 layers of the greenhouse, and I'm pushing on it right here. You can't hardly tell, but it's hard, but it kind of puffs it up, keeps it tight, which helps obviously when the wind's blowing, but it also acts as some insulation as well. This right here is a table that we have that we put all of our small seeded stuff on when we're getting ready to germinate them. That would be tomatoes and peppers and eggplant. And they have heaters. This one right here has 2 electric heaters underneath, and it's sealed up all the way around by plastic. This table over here has heat lamps. It's sealed up all the way around too. And what it does is it makes the top of the table hot, and it helps those small seeded stuff germinate. So all of the tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, we put them on here, leave them for about a week until they come up, and then we'll take them off and put them on the floor of the greenhouse. So the larger seeded stuff, we don't have to do that, but this just helps with germination. There you go. I got 42 flats seeded. That'll be 3,000 tomato plants. That'll be our first planting that we transplant out in the field. I did it myself this morning. It wasn't too bad. When we start doing more at one time, I'll have some help in here, and it goes faster when you've got several people doing it at one time. But we'll wait and put the dirt on top of them a couple more days and then water them, and then they'll be off and running. Last year we planted them around the 21st or 2nd of February. I'm trying to wait about a week longer because they got ready just a little bit early last year. Plus, as warm as it is, they're gonna really take off. And we'll see if you can see the seed in there. See that little white dot? That's a tomato seed right there. All right, here's an example of the sides coming down on their own. When it gets to 80 degrees and the greenhouse is sealed up in there, the sides start to lower. What they do is they lower just a little bit at one time, and then it'll take the temperature again, and then it'll check it. So you can see that it's lowered just a little bit, and then it'll take the temperature again in a few minutes, and it'll lower it down a little bit more. And eventually on a sunny day, it'll go all the way down. And then it'll kind of do the reverse at night and seal it back up. So it works pretty good. All right, we're gonna take you out to the peach orchard now. We've been pruning peach trees for the whole month of February. Trying to get through, it's a slow process, but we're gonna take you out there and show you around. All right, here we are in the peach orchard. You can see where we have piled up the limbs between every other tree. That's what we've pruned off, and then we'll come back at the end when we're finished and pick everything up and haul it off. You can kind of tell that the trees are kind of the same sort of on the top. We cut off a lot on the top, and then we prune them off on the sides and in the middle. Some of the dead wood and some of the wood that's too big coming out of the middle and the top. Of course, you don't want it too tall. And it's a lot of work. Each row is a different variety. You can come down here and see the ones that we have not done yet, and you can tell the difference. Some of the trees are bigger than others. Just depends on how much growth they put on in the summer. Some of them will get really tall, which is just more you have to cut off. I don't know if you can tell the difference on that tree versus these over here. And there's a lot to cut off, a lot of the little stuff. What will be a peach will be, you can see these buds here. All right, here's an example of a tree that's already been pruned. You can see a lot of the growth in the middle has been taken out. And it's kind of probably 7 or 8 feet tall. You don't want it too tall. You want to try to be able to reach it without using a ladder if possible. All the fruit this year that we pick will be what's on the limbs right now. Any new growth you get when the tree starts budding out and putting out new runners, they don't make fruit. The fruit comes from the growth from last year. So you can see we leave these little runners with the buds on them. And those will be blooms. It may be hard to see. Those will be blooms. It'll come on in March. And then sometime in April, whenever we get the fruit coming on, we'll have to thin all the fruit off. I say all the fruit, a lot of the fruit. We'll start when the fruit's about the size of a dime. You want to do it before it gets the size of a quarter. And we'll try to thin them off, that way it spaces them out, and you'll get to see that whenever the time comes. This right here may help you see a little bit on the size of the trees. You can see how much that sticks up right there versus some of these right here that have already been pruned. One thing most people don't know about peach trees is you can't just plant a tree and expect a peach. There's a lot of things that have to happen. A lot of it has to do with cold hours. It takes a certain amount of cold hours for each different variety of peaches, and they're not all the same. If you were going to plant an orchard, you would find out kind of what zone you are in the US, kind of for your average chill hours that you get every year, and that's kind of what you base which varieties you're going to plant. Of course, that doesn't always happen. 2 years ago, we had plenty of cold hours and we made a bumper peach crop. Last year, we were right on the verge of having enough, and some varieties didn't do too well. We thought they would put on a lot of peaches, but a lot of them didn't mature on some of the varieties, and that was to do with not quite having enough cold hours. It's hard to monitor exactly. We use a couple of websites that kind of help us. One of them uses a weather station that's about 12 miles away, so that's not entirely accurate. And one of them uses our exact location. And so they're a little bit different. I think this year we're going to be a little better than last year on the cold. But then again, it's hard to know for sure. But that's one thing a lot of people don't realize. And also, once the trees start blooming, then you don't want to freeze after that either. And the trees will start blooming when they get enough cold hours, and then they get a warm spell. So it's pretty warm right now, the last week of February. Actually, it's very warm. So it wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing some blooms pretty soon. So once that happens, you just don't want it to go back below freezing after that. So we'll see. Hopefully it'll be a good peach crop. It's a lot of work. We spend a lot of time out here in the winter pruning, and then we spend a lot of time thinning in the month of April. And of course we keep it clean and do the spraying and different things. And then hopefully the harvest comes in June, July, and August. So that's kind of the schedule from here on out on the peaches. Just to explain how the cold hours work a little bit better, 45 degrees and under is kind of what you're looking at. And that's, for years, that's what everybody kind of measured it, the hours that are under 45 degrees. But if you get hot weather in the winter mixed in with that, anything over 70, give or take or so, will cancel out an hour of under 45. So it gets pretty complicated. It's hard to keep up with it yourself too. So you need some kind of weather station or some kind of website to monitor it. So most of the varieties that I have are 800, 850, 900 hours. We have one that's 1,000 and one that's 750. So that kind of gives you an idea. That's the hours under 45. There's kind of a new formula called chill portions instead of chill hours that's kind of a little more accurate. I've been monitoring that more than I have the chill hours. And it takes into account 1 hour of hot weather and 1 hour of under 45. And kind of gives you a formula and takes into account the hot weather that's canceled out the cold, so you kind of know. So I feel like we're a little bit better shape than last year. This year we're showing 51 chill portions. You know, you never know how accurate that is, but last year we were at 46. So we'll see. You know, you can get 1,000 chill hours under 45 degrees and have a couple of weeks of highs in the 70s and 80s, and then it's canceled a lot of that out. So that's a little bit a better explanation on the chill hours. I'm still learning a lot about it, and there's a lot that is kind of unknown, but that kind of gives you an idea. All right, the peach trees are planted 20 feet apart within the row. So it's 20 feet from here to the next tree. And then it's 30 feet across from there to the next one over there. And these trees get pretty big when they get mature. I mean, you can tell more whenever we get the leaves on them, but they touch right there. And then we have trouble getting the tractor down through there by summertime because they don't touch across, but they get close enough to where it hits on your vehicle or your tractor. This is an area that we had a tornado last year in the spring of 2022. I don't know if you can tell, but it took a swath right across perpendicular to the rows there, and it took out one tree, and you go to the next row. Couple of trees there. We just planted these there and there, and then two more over there. They're small. You can see the little blue flags. But what's amazing is it didn't get those trees right there, and then it touched down on the other side and got one more on the other side of those trees and picked back up. But all these trees on both sides, it didn't do anything to them, so it's kind of amazing. This is another tree that we replanted that was sick last year. We pulled up 2 or 3 like this in the fall and replanted them. So I don't know if they'll make it or not. Most of the diseases that peaches get are in the soil. Well, a lot of them. A lot of those you can't do a whole lot about. But anyway, hopefully it'll make it. We pulled up maybe 2 or 3 or 4 each year, and ones that look kind of sickly, and replant them. So that's something we're always battling. Here is our wind flag that we have on the end of the row, right across the turn row there in that field right there. Is either cotton or corn. It's rotated every year by our neighbor. So we put that flag up there to help them keep any kind of drift off of our crops here. Plus it helps us too. We have those flags located in different places around all of our crops. All right, that's kind of a quick tour of the peaches. Once we get through pruning, get all of the limbs picked up, we'll put out our fertilizer. That'll happen hopefully by the 10th of March or so, give or take a little. So that's kind of the next step here. And then once they start blooming, we'll have to start putting out fungicides pretty regular. So that's all today on the peaches. All right, here we are back a couple days later, and we're gonna put the soil mix back on top of the tomato trays and cover them up and put them on my heating tables and water them, and they'll be ready to go. All right, it's pretty simple here. You just get a scoop, pour it on top, level it off, and that's it. See, we've got all the trays filled with dirt, and they are on a germinating table. All right, so all we got left to do is water them, and they'll be ready to go. There you go, everything is nice and watered on the heating tables. And that completes the first round of many plantings we'll have here in the greenhouse. They'll be on the table here for about a week. Once they come up good, we'll take them off and they'll be on their way. All right, that's gonna wrap up this video for this week. And we got a lot of field work to do, tractor work, getting everything ready out in the field. So our next video, you'll probably get to see all that. We got to put out fertilizer and all different things. So see y'all next time.